And next we have Officer Nia Dubois, who is the School Resource Officer for the Luxemburg-Casco School District. Nia.
Good morning, everybody. So like Lynn said, my name is Deputy Nia Dubois. I'm actually employed with the Kewaunee County Sheriff's Department. However, during the school year, I'm contracted with the Luxemburg-Casco School District. So during the school year, I am required to be here anytime school is in session. When school is not in session, I actually go back and work in the jail. If I don't want to take time off, I have the opportunity to go and work in the jail. So I have experience in both fields. So a little bit about my background. So like Amanda, I actually went to a 4-year college and went to be a teacher. I went to Silver Lake College. It's a private college that's, because of COVID, no longer a college. I went there for 4 years, got my teaching degree, graduated, realized teaching wasn't for me. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So through some research and whatever, I decided that I wanted to be a law enforcement officer. So I went to NWTC and did the police academy. So in order to do that, even though I had no knowledge, no background in criminal justice or anything, because I had 60 college credits, I was able to, to join the law enforcement academy. So at that time, it was only 13 weeks. I know they up to the hours now. I don't know what it's exactly up to, but it was 13 weeks at that time. I completed it, and by the time I was done, I was a sworn law enforcement officer. A little bit about education when it comes to law enforcement. You do have that opportunity to go to a four-year college and get a degree in something law enforcement related, criminal justice, whatever it may be, political science. Otherwise, like me, you don't have to have it in law enforcement in a background of that nature. You can just have it in whatever, but then you can go to the academy and do still become a sworn law enforcement officer. Otherwise, you can do a 2-year degree, associate's degree at a technical college. And if you want to be a sworn law enforcement officer, the academy is built right into that education. At least it is at NWTC and I think Fox Valley. However, if you want to advance more, I think in law enforcement later down the road, like if you want to become a lieutenant, a sergeant, sometimes investigators, having a 4-year degree does help. Not always required, but I think sometimes that it does help. Corrections, on the other hand, you don't have to be a sworn law enforcement officer. I know for Kewaunee County, it helps if you are a sworn law enforcement officer, but it's not necessary. So if you were to get hired by the Sheriff's Department for Kewaunee County, or I think any jail really, I know Brown County does it too, they send you to a jail academy. I think it's 4 weeks long, at least it was when I went. It's 4 weeks long and they teach you the ins and outs of corrections. So it's kind of nice that they send you to that. I think you can go on your own too. You're just not sponsored through a department then. A little bit about my day-to-day role, at least in the schools. So like I said, I have to be here Monday through Friday. Whenever school is in session, I'm here. Sometimes it goes beyond that. If there are events that the school wants me here for, I'm here for those. So such as like dances, I work every football game. That's home. Some basketball, volleyball games, if it's, like with a team that they have a little rival with that they're, sometimes they know that they have issues with, they want me to be there for that, or sometimes regional playoff games they'll want me to be there for as well. Some of the other things that I do, my main responsibility is to keep the building and everybody in it safe. So a lot of the day consists of just monitoring the hallways when students aren't passing, monitor the parking lots before and after school, and then from there, it's kind of anything that comes up throughout the day. So similar to what Amanda had said in her world as a DNR, you never know what the day is going to bring. And that's kind of one reason that I wanted to get into law enforcement, is because no day is ever the same. You never know what the day is going to bring, whether it's good or bad. It's nice because you just don't know what your day is going to be like. So if you like consistency and you like knowing what your day is going to be like, I wouldn't maybe recommend law enforcement to you. But so things that can come up throughout my day are, sometimes I do presentations in classrooms, especially in the younger grades, a lot of things on like bike safety, stranger danger, things like those. I'm primarily at the high school, so my coworker, she does a lot of those presentations at the younger buildings. Other things too, traffic stops in the morning or after school. A lot of the time I get phone calls randomly throughout the day. Officer Nia, so-and-so is not in class. He's 5 minutes late. Can you go see if you can find him? So it's a lot of little things like that that I have to go and do. But otherwise I do a lot of attendance things, and especially with COVID and a lot of kids having the option to be virtual, I have to track a lot of those students down, do checks on them if they're not logging in. If they are and they're just choosing not to do the schoolwork or participate in class, then that results in truancy. So citations, referrals are written. So that's the attendance portion. I also do things such as background checks for employment and volunteers. I do a lot of, if we have fights, drugs, alcohol, child abuse, missing person, anything like that in the schools, I deal with those as they come about too. Similar to patrol, a lot of the things that patrol does, I do a lot of the same things, except just in one confined space, not in the whole county like our county patrol officers. So pretty much anything that they do, I do, except it's with juveniles and it's in this constricted area. So between the 4 buildings that we have. So that's a little bit about my side on what I do during my day as a school resource officer. Like I said, in the summer, then I transition into the jail and I work in the jail the 3 months that the students have off. So Kewaunee County is a little bit different than other counties. We actually have our dispatch center as part of the role when you're hired as a jailer. So not only are you responsible for the jail portion, but you're also responsible for the dispatch portion. So if you're not familiar with what dispatch is our communication center, where you take 911 calls, you take non-emergency calls, and you are basically responsible for communicating and making sure your officers on patrol are safe. So Kewaunee County has a lot more responsibilities as a jailer than your typical versus Brown County. You're just usually assigned to one pod or a control center or whatever it may be. Kewaunee County is a lot different and a lot smaller. Brown County can hold I don't even know how many inmates, probably well over 100. Amanda, if you know, you can correct me, but I don't know. But I know Kewaunee County, we can only house 22 inmates. So we have a very, very small jail, which, sometimes is a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. We know a lot of the inmates because our county is smaller. We know a lot of our inmates that come in and out. So your day-to-day as a jailer, what your responsibilities are, every 30 minutes you have to do a cell check and make sure the inmates are behaving, they don't need anything, and basically just living and breathing. 3 times a day we serve meals. So you're responsible for serving those meals to inmates. And then 2 times a day, they are medicated. So we are responsible for dispersing the medications as well. Also different than larger jails. A lot of the larger jails have nurses and the nurses do that for them. we're small, we don't have that luxury, so we have to give them their medications also. Like I said, besides, like when you check on the inmates, if they need something, they fill out request slip forms. So you're responsible for answering those requests. Sometimes it's just sharpening pencils. Sometimes they need toilet paper. Sometimes they need you to look up an address for their attorney or whatever it may be. So those are some of the requests that we get on a day-to-day basis. We're also responsible for moving inmates when they have a visit with an attorney or a family member, or moving them when they need to go to court. So the jailers have a lot of different responsibilities as well. But then you look at the other side of it, and they have another whole role, which is the dispatch side. And like I said before, they're answering 911 lines, they're answering non-emergency calls, and they're communicating via radio with officers, EMS, and fire. So a lot going on. It's a lot to take in. But honestly, it's one of my favorite portions of the job. So not one thing I want to recommend is, and let you know that I was very fortunate. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 7 years now. When I started out working jail and dispatch. And then within like a year later, or maybe not even a year, I got moved to the schools part-time. And then not even a year later, I was in the schools full-time. It's not always like that. You have to work your way into things. Same with if you want to work patrol for Kewaunee County, you start out in the jail, work jail dispatch, and then if there's a hiring and you get hired, then you can go to patrol. So it's not like everything just, oh, I want to be a school resource officer. I'm gonna apply, like I want to work for, the Luxembourg School District. Doesn't happen that easily. And then another thing that one of my recommendations is, I know here at Luxembourg, we offer NWTC courses that get you those college credits. That's something that I would probably recommend doing. So if you have an interest in law enforcement and you want to go to a 2-year, I would definitely recommend taking any college courses that you can to help in the future.
Awesome. I have a couple of different questions. I'll start with corrections because that's where you left off. So with your 22 inmates you have, about what percentage of them, if any, do you have that have the capability of being out on Huber so that to work?
Sure, good question. I would say about, it kind of depends. So because of COVID right now, we don't like a lot of our inmates going out to work and then coming back in with the risk of spreading COVID in the jail. So right now, it's hard to speak on that question entirely, just because a lot of our Huber inmates are going out on the bracelet. Basically, you're on house arrest. But I would say about maybe 40% of our inmates are serving a sentence and have Huber privileges where they're able to go out to work.
Awesome. When you talked about as a school resource officer that you check on students if they aren't attending school virtually like they're supposed to, do you physically go to the home to check on students?
Yep.
Ah.
Yep.
But interesting. I
Yeah.
was not aware of that. So
yeah, a lot of them don't like to answer the door, but I go there.
And the last question I had is, if somebody has an associate degree and gets hired, is there any financial assistance if you then want to continue to work on your bachelor's degree or other certifications?
I can't speak for the bachelor's degree. I can speak, I know that we have at Kewaunee County put 2 officers. So they came in and they had backgrounds in criminal justice or in military or, serving overseas or whatever it may be. But they weren't qualified to carry a gun, AKA they weren't sworn officers. So we have put 2 officers through the academy on the county on the county's dime to go and complete that academy, so they can become sworn law enforcement officers.
Okay, great. Allison, do you have any questions?
Just real quick, is there different types of training for being, I mean, how do you keep up with being being on your A game?
Sure, good question. So actually, we have multiple different trainings. I was going to talk about that, but I forgot to write it down and it slipped my mind. But yes, we're offered trainings randomly throughout the year. Next week, actually, I'm doing a school resource officer training virtually. But before they were in person, and yeah, we have trainings like that. Also in the jail setting and patrol setting, we have trainings that we do monthly to keep up on our skills, to keep up on our policies, things like that. And then we also have trainings that we can go to or attend virtually that are, if you have an interest in something, like if somebody wants to become a firearms instructor, we can be sent to that school to become a firearms instructor. So there's a ton of different trainings, and I could talk probably hours about that. But essentially, yes, we do have trainings monthly that we have to do to keep up on our skills. And then we do have trainings to increase our knowledge and stay up to date on things that are happening in the world.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.